Jamal Carter had built the Blue Lantern from the ground up. It wasn't just a bar, it was the spot. A sleek, upscale lounge with jazz on Thursdays, craft cocktails that made people feel important, and a clientele that knew how to handle top-shelf liquor. He'd spent years making sure it had the right vibe. Classy, but comfortable. A place where folks could kick back without drama. Tonight, after closing, it was just him, a glass of bourbon, and the low hum of the cleaning crew finishing up. He liked these quiet moments. No customers, no deals to close, no one to impress. Just him and the warm burn of a drink done right. Then the door swung open, hard, like someone had kicked it, except it was just the wind of authority blowing in. Two cops, walking in like they had a warrant signed by God himself. Officers Mike Landon and Travis Reed, both white, both carrying that particular air of confidence that only comes when a man knows he'll never face real consequences. "Got a report about a disturbance," Landon announced, eyes sweeping the bar like crime was about to materialize from the shadows. Jamal didn't even look up right away. Just took another sip, let the warmth settle in his chest before answering. "Disturbance? Ain't nothing disturbed but my peace." Reed stepped forward, squinting like Jamal was an unsolved mystery. "You work here?" Jamal let out a short laugh, finally turning to face them. "You could say that." "Wrong answer." Landon's whole posture shifted, shoulders squaring like he was about to handle some real trouble. "Let me see some ID." Jamal set his glass down slow, controlled. He'd played this game before, seen how it ended for folks who got too quick, too loud, too anything that made the wrong kind of man feel threatened. For what? "Because I said so," Reed snapped. And just like that, the whole vibe flipped. The air got heavier, the kind of tension you feel in your bones, like the ground itself was warning you to be careful. Jamal had dealt with this kind of nonsense before. Cops rolling in, eyes full of assumptions, looking for something that wasn't there. But tonight was different. Because this wasn't some random bar on the block. This was his bar. Mike Landon took a slow step forward, making sure his badge was in clear view, his hand resting way too comfortably on his belt. "Place is closed." "What are you doing here?" Jamal exhaled, already tired of whatever this was turning into. "Drinking," he said, lifting his glass slightly. "In my bar." That should have been the end of it. Hell, it should have made the cops nod, tip their hats, and get the hell out. But nah, that wasn't how this was gonna go. Travis Reed let out this amused little chuckle, like he already had the whole story figured out. "That right? So, you're just hanging out in here alone, after hours with the lights dimmed? That's not suspicious to you?" Jamal set his drink down, slow, real deliberate, and leaned forward on the bar. "Not when I owned the place." Silence, just for a second. Then Landon smirked, shaking his head. "Cute, you got proof?" Jamal let out a breath, already knowing the answer to that question. It wouldn't matter. He could pull out the business license, show them his damn name on the deed, and they'd still find a way to make this about something else. That's how this always went. Still, he wasn't about to let them get the upper hand. "Do you even know who I am?" he asked, reaching for his wallet slow, making sure there was no sudden movement. Reed scoffed. "Oh, here we go." Landon leaned in, all smug confidence. Yeah, I know exactly who you are, a drunk guy running his mouth, looking for trouble." Jamal clenched his jaw, gripping the edge of the bar to keep himself from reacting. He wasn't drunk, he wasn't causing trouble, he was just existing. And somehow, that was enough to put him on trial. Jamal had been through enough in his life to recognize the look on Officer Landon's face. It was that smug expression that white cops got when they thought they had all the power. Like they were just waiting for an excuse to escalate things. And Reed? He was already inching closer, itching for confrontation. "You need to leave," Landon said, folding his arms across his chest like he had the authority to throw Jamal out of his own damn bar. Jamal let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Leave? Man, you must be out of your mind. This is my place." Reed scoffed. "Not what it looks like." Jamal's jaw tightened. He'd heard that tone before. Casual, dismissive, like they'd already made up their minds about him before he even opened his mouth. "I don't give a damn what it looks like," Jamal shot back. "I own this place. I'm not going anywhere." Landon exhaled dramatically, shaking his head like Jamal was some kid acting up in school. "Look, we got a call about a disturbance," he said, voice dripping with fake patience. "Now, I don't know who you think you are, but if you don't step outside, we got a problem." Jamal felt his blood pressure spike. "Who I think I am," he repeated, voice low, dangerous. "I know exactly who I am, and you just walked into my business trying to flex like you run something." That was it. That was all it took. Reed moved first, reaching for his cuffs as he lunged forward. "All right, that's enough. Turn around, hands behind your back." Jamal instinctively jerked his arm away, stepping back. "What the hell are you doing?" Reed didn't answer. He just grabbed Jamal's wrist and yanked it behind his back, twisting it at a painful angle. A sharp bolt of pain shot up Jamal's arm. "Yo, let me go!" Lisa, the bartender, was the first to react. She slammed her tray down on the bar, eyes wide with rage. "Are you out of your damn minds?" she yelled. "That's Jamal. He owns this place." The rest of the staff exploded into chaos. Chairs scraped against the floor, voices overlapping. "What the hell are y'all doing? That's the owner. Let him go." Phones were out now, cameras rolling. The bouncers stepped forward, fists clenched, but Jamal shot them a quick look. Not yet. Reed didn't care. He shoved Jamal toward the door, fingers digging into his shoulder. "Oh yeah," he sneered. "Well, if he owns it, he can prove it downtown." The whole bar fell into a stunned silence for a second before chaos erupted. Customers, bartenders, and servers all started shouting at once. Phones were out, cameras rolling. Someone in the back yelled, "Yo, that's the owner! Y'all arresting the damn owner!" Travis rolled his eyes, unfazed. "Yeah, sure he is," he muttered, shoving Jamal forward. Mike, gripping Jamal's arm tighter than necessary, let out a dry chuckle. "You think being loud is gonna save you?" His voice dripped with arrogance. Jamal sighed, glancing around at the growing crowd. His face was calm, but his jaw clenched, his patience running thin. He could already see where this was going. "Someone call my lawyer," he said, voice firm but level. The bartender, Tanya, slammed her rag down on the counter. "This is insane. Y'all really don't know who he is?" Travis shot her a glare. "Lady, I don't care who he is. What I see is a guy refusing to comply." Tanya scoffed. "Refusing to comply? With what, standing in his own damn bar?" At that moment, another customer, a middle-aged man in a suit, stepped forward, phone still recording. "Officers, I suggest you take a moment to reassess. Because I've been coming here for years, and I damn well know that man is Jamal Carter, the owner of this establishment." Mike faltered for a split second, his grip loosening just a fraction. "But Travis," he doubled down. "Yeah, and I'm supposed to just take your word for it." The man smirked. "Nope, but the liquor license behind the bar might help. It has his name on it." Mike hesitated again. His eyes flicked to the bar where the laminated license was hanging in a frame, clear as day. "Jamal Carter, owner." Travis, still unwilling to back down, gritted his teeth. "Well, if that's the case, he should have just said so." Jamal let out a sharp laugh, shaking his head. "I did." The tension in the room was thick, the energy volatile. The cameras kept rolling. The cops' radio crackled, but neither of them reached for it. They both knew what was happening now. This was spiraling out of their control. The bartender turned to another employee. "You get his lawyer on the phone yet?" "Already dialing," the guy muttered. Jamal exhaled slowly, still locked in those tight, unnecessary cuffs. He wasn't the type to beg, wasn't the type to yell, but he knew when to let the situation expose itself. And right now, these two cops were digging their own graves. Then, a voice from the doorway cut through the noise. "The hell is going on here?" A man in a dark suit walked in, exuding authority. Detective Marcus Green. Jamal recognized him instantly. Mike and Travis exchanged uneasy glances. Marcus's sharp gaze landed on Jamal in cuffs, then flicked to the officers. "Y'all really just arrested the owner of the damn bar?" The room went dead silent. Jamal smirked. "Took you long enough, Marcus." Tanya, still fuming, behind the bar, snatched up her phone and dialed the manager. "Get down here now. These damn cops just arrested Jamal." On the other end, the manager, Damien, nearly dropped his coffee. "What? The hell they did?" "You heard me," Tanya snapped. "They got him cuffed like some random off the street." Damien didn't waste time. He hung up and immediately called a city official he knew well, Councilman Eric Dawson, a longtime patron of the Blue Lantern. Meanwhile, out in the squad car, Jamal sat in the back seat, wrists still bound uncomfortably. The officers stood outside, leaning against the car like they had all the time in the world. Travis smirked, peering through the window. "You comfy back there?" Jamal didn't bother responding. He just stared at them, his expression unreadable. He'd dealt with this kind of power-tripping nonsense before, but this time? Oh, this time was different. Mike checked his watch. "Hope you got bail money, big guy." Jamal chuckled dryly. "Oh, don't worry, someone's covering me." Inside the bar, the tension was suffocating. Customers murmured, shaking their heads. Tanya was pacing, furious. "They're real quiet now, huh?" she muttered, glancing out the window at the cops. And then, finally, the radio crackled. A sharp, commanding voice cut through the static. "Unit 12, release him immediately!" Mike stiffened. "Come again?" The voice came back, even sharper this time. "That's Jamal Carter, the owner of the bar. Release him now!" Travis turned ghost white. Mike's mouth opened slightly, like he wanted to argue, but he wasn't dumb enough to go against a direct order. Jamal just sat there, watching the panic settle in. Tanya grinned. "Oh, now they're nervous." Mike and Travis stood there, like statues, the blood draining from their faces. A second ago, they were cocky, untouchable. Now they looked like two kids caught stealing from the candy store. Jamal leaned back against the squad car, still cuffed, and let a slow smirk creep onto his face. "Not so tough now, huh?" His voice was smooth, controlled, but dripping with satisfaction. Travis swallowed hard. This gotta be some kind of mistake." "Yeah?" Jamal raised an eyebrow. "Feels different when the power ain't all on your side, don't it?" Before they could stutter out another excuse, the sound of a car screeching to a stop made everyone turn. A black, unmarked vehicle rolled up, and out stepped Police Chief Monica Ruiz, looking like she was ready to set the entire block on fire. She was short, stocky, and built like she could take down a linebacker if she had to. Her badge gleamed under the streetlights, and the look in her eyes said she was already over this mess. "Which one of you idiots," she growled, marching straight toward them, "thought it was a good idea to arrest Jamal freaking Carter?" Travis and Mike couldn't answer. Jamal, still cool as ever, raised his cuffed hands slightly. "Hey, Chief, you mind telling these clowns to take these off?" Chief Ruiz shot both officers a look so sharp it could cut glass. "You heard the man." Travis fumbled with the keys, his hands shaking so bad he nearly dropped them. Mike looked like he wanted to disappear. As soon as the cuffs clicked open, Jamal rolled his wrists, rubbing the soreness away. Ruiz crossed her arms. "Someone better start explaining before I make an example out of both of you." Chief Ruiz's voice cut through the night like a whip. "Uncuff him, now!" Mike fumbled with the keys, his fingers shaking as he unlocked the cuffs. The moment the metal snapped open, Jamal rolled his wrists, rubbing the sore red marks where they had been digging into his skin. He took his time, making sure both officers saw the damage they had caused. Travis opened his mouth, desperate to claw his way out of this mess. "Chief, listen, we thought—" "Yeah, you thought wrong," Ruiz snapped, stepping closer. "You profile my citizens. You humiliate a business owner in his own bar. And you think I'm just going to let that slide?" The crowd outside the bar wasn't having it either. Booing, shouting, recording, phones were up from every angle, capturing the officers' panicked faces. Someone yelled, "You seeing this?" "These are your cops, Chief." Jamal just stood there, staring Mike and Travis down, his expression unreadable. But his silence was louder than anything. Travis took a shaky breath. It was just a mistake. Jamal let out a short, humorless laugh. "A mistake?" He stepped closer, forcing them to look at him. "Nah. Spilling coffee on your shirt is a mistake. Locking up the owner of a bar for nothing? That's a problem." Mike looked at Ruiz, his face pleading. "Chief, Ruiz cut him off with a glare so sharp he shut up immediately. "Both of you, shut up. I don't want to hear a damn word." She exhaled, shaking her head. "We're handling this." Jamal tilted his head. "Handling it, huh?" His voice was cool, dangerous. "I'll tell you what, I got lawyers, I got connections, and I got time. So I suggest y'all figure out real fast how you're gonna fix this." Mike and Travis shifted nervously, their arrogance crumbling under the weight of their own stupidity. The reckoning had begun, and there was no easy way out. By the next morning, The video had spread like wildfire. It was all over Twitter, Instagram, and every major news outlet. People weren't just mad, they were furious. The hashtags #MasterJustice for Jamal and #EndPoliceBias were trending nationwide. News anchors dissected the footage, replaying the moment Jamal was shoved into handcuffs over and over again. Talk show hosts weighed in, calling it a blatant example of racial profiling. Even celebrities jumped in, tweeting their outrage and demanding accountability. At City Hall, the mayor called an emergency press conference. The room was packed with reporters, their cameras flashing as he stepped up to the podium. His face was grim. "What happened to Mr. Carter is completely unacceptable," he said, gripping the microphone. "We will hold these officers accountable. There is no place for racial profiling in this city." His words were strong, but the people outside weren't waiting for promises. A massive crowd had already gathered in front of the police station. Protesters held up signs reading, "Protect, not profile," and "Jamal Carter deserves justice." Chants of "No justice, no peace" echoed through the streets. Local activists took turns at a megaphone, calling for real reform. "This isn't just about Jamal Carter," one speaker shouted. "This is about all the black men harassed, arrested, or worse because of officers like Mike Landon and Travis Reed." Inside the precinct, Mike and Travis sat in silence. Chief Ruiz had wasted no time, placing them both on administrative leave. Their badges were gone. Their guns were confiscated. They were officially off duty, pending a full investigation. And they knew what that really meant. This was the beginning of the end. "You think they'll actually fire us?" Travis asked, his leg bouncing anxiously. Mike let out a bitter laugh. "Are you serious? You tackled the owner of a bar in his own place of business while a whole damn audience recorded every second of it. The mayor's on TV calling it unacceptable. The DA's launching an investigation. You think they're just gonna slap us on the wrist?" Travis ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. "Man, this is so..." Mike cut him off. "So what, Travis? Unfair?" He shook his head. "We screwed up. End of story." Neither of them said anything after that, because for once they both knew the truth. They weren't getting out of this one. The internal affairs investigation wasn't just a routine check. It was a full-blown exposé. As soon as they started digging into Mike and Travis's records, it became real clear that this wasn't some isolated incident. These two had stacks of complaints against them. Excessive force, racial profiling, harassment, all of it. And the worst part, every single one of those reports had been conveniently brushed aside, swept under the rug, ignored. But now the whole city was watching, and the department had no choice but to finally take action. Meanwhile, Jamal wasn't sitting around waiting for justice to come to him. The second he got home, he called his lawyer, Malcolm Wright. A legal powerhouse who didn't just fight cases like this. He lived for them. "We're not just filing a lawsuit," Malcolm told him, voice sharp and confident. "We're pressing criminal charges. Unlawful arrest, false imprisonment, assault. They're gonna pay for this. They're gonna pay." Jamal exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "Damn right they are." By the next morning, the police department scrambled to do damage control. The video of Jamal's arrest had gone everywhere. News channels, social media, even national outlets were talking about it. The department had to respond, and fast. So they did what they always do in situations like this. They called a press conference. Chief Monica Ruiz stood stiffly at the podium, cameras flashing around her. She cleared her throat before delivering her carefully crafted speech. "We recognize the gravity of this situation and are taking immediate steps to ensure that incidents like this do not occur again." Jamal watched the announcement on TV, arms crossed. "Bias training? That's their big solution," he muttered, shaking his head. Malcolm, sitting across from him, scoffed. "Man, it's just a PR move. They want to act like they're doing something without actually changing anything." He leaned forward, his expression dark. "But trust me, when we're done with them, they're gonna feel this in their wallets. And Mike and Travis, they won't be wearing a badge ever again." Jamal cracked his knuckles. "Good, 'cause I'm not stopping until they do." A week after the incident, Jamal stood on stage at a packed community event, a microphone in his hand, the weight of the moment heavy on his shoulders. Cameras flashed, reporters leaned forward, and the entire city tuned in to hear what he had to say. He let the silence linger for a second before speaking, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "If I wasn't the owner of that bar, I'd be sitting in a jail cell right now, and you know it. How many others aren't so lucky?" A murmur rippled through the crowd. People knew the truth in his words. "This ain't just about me," he continued, eyes scanning the sea of faces before him. "It's about every black man who's been treated like a criminal just for existing. It's about every person of color who's been humiliated, handcuffed, or worse, just 'cause some cop assumed they didn't belong. Well, I belong here. We belong here." The crowd erupted into cheers, fists raised, voices shouting in agreement. The moment was bigger than Jamal. It was about the entire community demanding change. His case became a catalyst for something bigger. City officials couldn't ignore the backlash, and soon, police reform discussions swept through the mayor's office, the police department, and local government meetings. Policies were questioned, procedures were rewritten, and officers were forced to face the reality of their unchecked power. Other business owners, especially black and minority entrepreneurs, began stepping forward, sharing their own horror stories. Tales of harassment, wrongful detainments, and intimidation tactics flooded social media and news networks. What happened to Jamal wasn't an isolated event. It was part of a much bigger, uglier pattern. As for Mike and Travis, they were done. Their names were permanently stained, their law enforcement careers dead on arrival. The city had to make an example out of them, proving that officers who abused their power wouldn't be protected anymore. They were stripped of their badges, their reputations shredded, their futures uncertain. And Jamal, he didn't stop. He turned his anger into action, funding legal aid for victims of police misconduct, partnering with activists, and using his platform to demand real justice. Because power wasn't just about who had a badge, it was about who had a voice. And Jamal made sure his was heard. Months later, the verdict came down like a hammer. Mike and Travis were officially found guilty of misconduct. The city, desperate to save face, made an example out of them, ensuring they'd never work in law enforcement again. Stripped of their badges, their careers were over, their names forever tied to the kind of racial profiling that people were sick of. They tried to defend themselves, claiming they had followed protocol and were just doing their jobs. But the body cam footage, the witness videos, and the overwhelming public backlash made their excuses worthless. No one bought it. No one wanted to hear them cry about how unfair it all was, not when they'd been the ones abusing their power in the first place. Meanwhile, the Blue Lantern became more than just a bar. It became a movement. Business boomed with customers flooding in, not just for the drinks, but for what the place represented. People who had never stepped foot inside now made it a point to stop by, show their support, and put their money into a business that actually stood for something. Journalists, activists, and community leaders all came through, turning the bar into a hub for discussions about justice and reform. It wasn't just about the drinks or the music anymore. It was about making a statement. The people stood behind Jamal, proving that when one of their own was wronged, they showed up. His bar wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. But Jamal didn't stop at success. He turned his platform into something bigger. He started using his influence to push for real, lasting change. He partnered with legal experts to fight cases just like his, ensuring that no one else would have to go through what he did without support. He held town hall meetings, forcing city leaders to listen to the people, calling for policies that would hold officers accountable. He met with young black men, making sure they knew their rights, making sure they never felt powerless in situations like his. And when the city finally announced mandatory racial bias training and new de-escalation protocols for law enforcement, Jamal knew this fight wasn't just about him. It was about all of them. Because power, real power, It wasn't about having a badge. It wasn't about intimidation. It was about lifting people up, not holding them down. And Jamal made damn sure the lesson stuck.